Hello everybody. It's a real pleasure for me to host you today during our educational event organized by ISACA Warsaw and also our partners EY Poland and Adaptive GRC. Let's get started. How to ensure compliance and mitigate risk of third parties. This is pretty much a broad topic. Then before I start, I would like to give you some insights about me. My name is Jan Anisimowicz. I graduated from Warsaw Military Academy of Technology, Cybernetics Faculty. It was quite a long time ago because not only in the previous century, but also in the previous millennium too. Then over the 25 years of experience in IT, security, data management, and also the artificial intelligence, I grasped some knowledge that today I would like to share with you. I'm also ISACA member since May 2024. I joined the ISACA board and I'm responsible for the educational meeting, and this is the result of the ISACA Warsaw activities. And before I start my presentation, I would like to share you some story of my life. It was more or less 20 years ago. There was a barbecue party. And my friend told me, Jan, you are quite active, you are playing basketball, volleyball, then there is a marathon run in 3 weeks' time from now. Maybe you can join me in this engagement. And I started to think, 3 weeks, plenty of time, maybe I join the marathon. Then after the barbecue party, I decided to prepare a plan how to prepare to the marathon run. And I did the trainings even twice a day, 2 trainings per day. Then 3 days before the marathon, I completed my longest run, 12 kilometers. I thought I was ready. Unfortunately, I wasn't. I almost died on the finish line, and I have only one thought in my life: never do this again, never do this again. And since that time, I completed 8 other marathons, but I prepared better. Then it's always good to draw some kind of conclusions from your activities. Then I would like to share three with you today. The first one is now. It took me almost 5 hours to complete my first marathon, and I promise you that my presentation will be significantly shorter today. Okay, if you would like to connect with me, this is the QR code that you can scan, and this is just the link to my LinkedIn profile. After completing of this session, you will be able to just create the vendor risk profile, to create or repeat the recommended steps to ensure third-party compliance as part of the integrated GRC process. And this is pretty much important, how to choose the most risky vendor for audits and how to mitigate risk coming of the third parties. I will share with you some kind of the process of 8 steps, how to ensure compliance while focusing on the third-party vendor risk management. Just one comment. During this presentation, I will use the words like vendor, subcontractor, data processor, service provider, third parties, like there are synonyms. But this is just for the purpose of this presentation, because in different contexts, they can have different meaning. But in this presentation, vendor or subcontractor means the party that is delivering a service to us, which is important, and we would like to pay for it, and because this is important for the company. Okay. The first part, I would like to highlight some most important challenges that are associated with vendors. Then, having the, let's say, broader information about the challenges, I would like to share with you how to deal with the challenges and to show you some recommended steps to ensure vendor compliance. And later, in the point number 3, I will share with you some, let's say, case study, but this will be a case study, unusual one. Nothing business related, but something that gives you the broader understanding how we can deal with vendors and how to ensure compliance. And then later, of course, summary, what are the takeaways from this session. Then let's get started. Challenges connected with vendors. Each day, we can observe in the internet different problems like data lost, money lost, data breaches. There's a lot of information that you can find almost each day that I would like to share with you one very interesting topic related to that NASA in 2019 lost 2 satellites and $700 million because of the failure. And during the investigation, they came to the conclusion that this was the result of the metal manufacturer who faked the test results. Faked the test results of the metal equipment used in the satellites. Then there was a question how to not repeat the problem in the future, and maybe NASA should do everything on their own. And NASA replied, we cannot do everything on our own because it's too complicated. There are too many aspects to take into consideration. We don't have resources, and so then we have to rely on our vendors. But don't worry, I will share with you also a positive aspect from NASA that was even earlier. But we have to take this into consideration that vendors could create a severe risk for our companies and severe loss, as we can see in this example. Then what we can expect in that case, loss of reputation, penalties from being non-compliance from the regulator, also legal responsibility, and which is the most common problem, operational and business interruptions. I would like to share with you some examples from elections in Poland that were in 2014. There was a very interesting topic because the government would like to launch an online platform that will be capable of gathering all the votes from all the electoral commissions, 25,000, and to calculate the results, summarize, and send to the central points to calculate the votes. The only problem was, even the idea was brilliant, because the older system was quite old, that the only vendor selection criteria was the lowest price. Development time was very short, just a couple of months, and vendor risk profile was not preferred. As you maybe remember this from the history, this was a result that the system generated incorrect data and later crashed, because after they start to calculate the results and they try to submit the data to the central system. As there was a, let's say, huge number of the electoral commissions, this looks like the DDoS attack, and the system just stopped to respond to the requests. There was impact was that the announcement of the results was delayed by several days. If I'm not mistaken, it was 5 or 6 days later, but should be the next day. Huge social and political scandal, and the vendor company went bankrupt. I just read the story about the company. The company which won the contract was just 3 people. They have to deliver the system significantly below the lowest price that was, let's say, raised by the other vendors. Yeah, this is the story. Then, what are the key drivers? Because why do we need vendors or subcontractors? What are the key drivers? The first one is that they have the resources that we don't have. They can have also they help us in the projects when the time is crucial. They can deliver the project faster. It's also worth to mention that skills are also important, because we don't have skills that have to be assigned to the projects. And of course, they can deliver, they are price competitive, because we have to pay them only for the work delivered. Oh, sorry, we're in Poland right now, then I will change the money to the Polish zloty. Okay. This is the second example from NASA, that there was an Apollo mission to the moon. Then there were around 400 subcontractors involved. I mean the main subcontractors, because each subcontractor has their own smaller subcontractors. But when it comes to the totals, in the peak, there was 400,000 people involved into the project. And from that number, 92% they were just subcontractors. Yeah? Then the majority of work was delivered by the external parties. This is pretty much important to understand that this was a huge engagement just in 9 years to prepare the mission to the moon, and successful mission, of course, but mainly delivered by the subcontractors. One other example, of course, you know the two companies. This is Apple and Samsung. There's dozens of cases, Apple against Samsung, Samsung against Apple. But sometimes miracle happens. This was back in 2017 that Apple announced the brand new iPhone X with this beautiful notch. And on that time, the only company that can deliver this Super Retina screen was Samsung. Apple assumed that they will sell around 100 million devices. This would mean for Samsung almost $11 billion of revenue. The results were maybe not so optimistic, but still $9 billion of income for Samsung. It was significantly higher number than from selling his own flagship Galaxy Note 8. Back in 2017, we did a project with the University of Los Angeles just to verify the market in the US with the main focus of the third-party vendor risk management. And we focused on not on the all the sectors, but the scope was limited mainly to the pharma and financial sectors. And what were the results? Less than 12% companies, they use any kind of the solution just to support the vendor risk management. 30% of the risk professionals, internal audits, compliance people, they didn't know whether they have this kind of process in their company or not. And the majority use just Excel files. This Excel is the king, and this is something that we can observe during the work with the customers, that Excel is good for everything. And you can do everything in Excel, but maybe sometimes it's better to think about something more advanced and sophisticated to overtake some of the limitations that Excel can create, especially in the collaboration. What we receive as a response, this will be an example of the most frequent challenges that were mentioned during the assessment. The assessment was delivered by the students of the UCLA University during the half a year. They did almost 700 interviews with the people, and there are just the most important aspects. We don't have a list of vendors. We don't know them, just simply. The second answer, we have many lists of vendors, manual, process, spreadsheet driven. Procurement has its own department, risk managers, their own IT, of course, they have their own subcontractors or vendors. We have too many vendors. It's very difficult to navigate because there are, let's say, hundreds or even thousands of vendors, and we don't know how to ensure compliance. Last week I was on the DORA conference, and the head of the KNF told that the biggest problem that they can observe in Poland due to the DORA implementation is in the area of the vendor risk management and third-party risk management. This is pretty much important. We don't know services that the vendors are delivering for us. We don't have resources to audit or assess them. We don't have the solution, of course, because we're Excel-based. We don't have a budget. The budget, the lack of budget is the most frequent excuse. If in the company something cannot happen, then this is the easiest excuse. We don't have budget. We don't have resources, and budget is the most frequent one. And vendors could have vendors. Then we have to think about just our subcontractor, that they can have subcontracting some kind of work, then the so-called the fourth parties, and this is very difficult to track because, for example, when we take into consideration the GDPR requirements, you as the administrator are responsible for everything, even there is a chain of vendors supporting your data management activities. And of course, many more. This is the question to the people in this room. Do you have an idea what is this net? This is just the GDPR RODO regulation from the eyes of the IT guys. Each dot means one article. Each line that is connecting the dots, there are just the references between the different articles. The same color means the same category of articles, and the size of the bubble means the more references from different places, the more important the article is. And there is a big pink bubble in the middle. Do you have an idea what could be this article? No, but close. This was just the general conditions for imposing administrative fines. That even the goal for GDPR was to harmonize the data privacy among all EU countries. This is just imposed by the fines. But if we just distill only the articles connected to the data processors and the vendors, there is pretty much most of them is in this area and is connected to this big pink bubble. Then now is the question, how to start an efficient vendor risk management process? And I would like to prepare the response from Mr. Barea, who found the answer a couple of years ago, how we can, let's say, proceed in the situation that needs a solution. Let's see.
Aha. O. Co to są te?
Spółdzielcze punktowce. Panie dyrektorze, tu jest jezioro.
A, nie, dobrze. To jezioro damy tutaj, a ten niech sobie sami dzielą.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not easy just to move the lakes, then my proposal and the recommendation will be maybe slightly easier to implement. Then recommended steps to ensure vendor compliance. And now, again, question to the people in this room. Do you know that creature?
Cat.
Yeah, but what kind of cat?
Oh, the smile.
Cheshire, yeah, Cheshire cat, yeah, exactly. There was a discussion between the Cheshire cat and Alice, that Alice would like to go somewhere, but she didn't know where. Then the Cheshire cat responded that she will get somewhere if she will walk long enough. Then this means that there are some kind of shortcuts or the longer ways, there are obstacles on the road. The recommendation that I would like to share with you is this was the information that were distilled from our experience, just to give you some kind of the shortcuts or just to remove some of the obstacles from the road. Then I would like to, the entire vendor risk management process starts from the onboarding, then there is a continuous management, and the last part is offboarding, or some say bye-bye. Then the covered scope in this presentation focus mainly on the continuous management, because this is the longest process and the most important one. I will show you the process from the vendor side, which is the most comprehensive approach, but also for the braves, I will show you the process that can be implemented in any companies almost at no costs, but only if you are brave. Then let's start from the Agile for the Braves. Let's say there was a data leakage. Something happens, then auditors are around the corner. They will investigate what happens, why we lost, let's say, 7 million of our customer data. Then what we need to do, we need to find any available SMEs just to verify what happens. We need to capture all the evidence available. And if we are lucky, we can, let's keep our fingers crossed that this will never happen again. The process is simple. There's only one rule. Don't panic while focusing on resolving the situation. And from that perspective, if the company, any kind of risk materialized, we have no problems, no cost at all. But if something happens and we cannot ensure that we are compliant with the regulations, it could cost us a lot. Just having in mind the DORA or the GDPR, there are severe fines that can be imposed by the regulator. Then this is rather wrong way. I do not recommend that. Maybe if you are enormously brave, then you can still do that. But maybe something better will be, let's say, more important for you to implement, because it can happen that even you think that you are bulletproof, you can survive, you can do everything. It could happen that your internal processes are not good enough, and there will be a way just to overtake or to crash them. Then let's see in this movie. We can be quick, we can be skillful, but it could be not enough. Then my goal is just to show you the 8 steps that maybe give you the idea how to deal with the vendors in a way that will be comprehensive and you can mitigate the risks on the different levels quite quickly. Then the step number 1 is just to create and consolidate list of vendors. You have to think, okay, where are my vendors? Who they are? We have to create then one version of the truth to have all the vendors listed from different sources, that we have to capture all the information required, because this is pretty much important. Sometimes this activity, based on our experience from, let's say, past implementations, it could be delivered like the vendor consolidation projects, that if we would like to focus on the vendors, we don't know them, then if we create the project that the aim is to consolidate the vendors, for example, from 1,000 to, let's say, 300, it could work. It would be helpful just to have similar information about all the vendors, and I will explain why, because we need to focus on the most important vendors as the top priority. Then in step number 2, we have to prepare the list of services that are important for our company. Then, depending on the business that you are delivering, you have to create the list of services that is important for you. This is the part of your business. Because if you create the list of the services, it will be easier for you just to maintain them. And in the longer run, it would be beneficial for the organization to prepare the hierarchy of the services just to better maintain them. If you have vendors and assign importance, then we can do a kind of the classification. From the one side, we have vendors. On the other side, we have the services, and we can associate vendors with the services. This gives us the better understanding which vendor is responsible for what. And sometimes we can even, based on that point, to verify that the vendor number 4 is a critical one for us, because it delivers for us, let's say, many services, and while the others just deliver one, or sometimes it could happen that there are vendors that they have no services that are important for the companies, then maybe why they have to deliver still something to our companies if this is not important for us. As the next recommendation, you can assign, you can categorize the services, and you can assign business responsibility to different colleagues in the organization, because it can give you the better buying process. But this is optional. You can do this, let's say, later. In the step number 4, as you can find that after the verification, you can have, let's say, hundreds of vendors. Then you have to verify the vendors and to do the filtering, to focus on the most important vendors first, based on different categories like the services, business processes, phases, and so. Because the next process that I will show you, the verification of the vendor risk profile, is pretty much time-consuming and can cost quite a lot of, mainly time, not money. But based on the filtering, you will find which vendors are the most important ones, and you can focus on them. Okay, the next one. We have to create the vendor risk profile based on 2 dimensions. The first dimension is the services risk that the vendor is delivering, and the second dimension is the entity risks. For example, how big is the vendor, what is the size of the company, what is the financial standings, and so. You can create the list of different, let's say, points, or the checklist that is relevant for your organization. This is pretty much important because you can leverage the knowledge from the organization that you have, or you can find also other information sources like Dun & Bradstreet or Bisnode, just to extend the content of the information available in the organization. Based on that, you can create this kind of the matrix that gives you the information, what is the services score on the X dimension, and what is the entity risk score on the Y dimension. Each dot means one vendor, and based on that recommended categorization, you will find that most of the vendors, they can do the self-assessment, that this will be enough just to meet your compliance requirements. But if, like this one vendor is extending the borders of your risk appetite, then on-site audit will be required. It's good to automate the process, that if you have, let's say, dozens of hundreds of vendors, you can prepare the assessment. You can invite in the online, dear vendor, we would like to verify your compliance with our, let's say, regulations. It can be tailored assessment that the vendor have to respond on just the set of questions that are important for the vendor and the service that the vendor is delivering. This is pretty much automated process that we will see the responses, and based on that we can do the categorization. But based on that process, if there are some findings, some observations that we have to deal with the gaps and findings management, then how to do that? Right now I would like to invite once again Mr. Barea to explain how the process could look like if we don't have the process in place.
Jak wyglądamy z planem? Jeżeli chodzi o plan, to 76%. Prawdę nie mów. Prawdę to 75%. Powiedziałem prawdę. Prawdę to dobrze iść, panie dyrektorze.
No właśnie, who knows that? Then this process could look like this, that we have the, let's say, vendor check. We can have the initial register of the findings or gaps, that this is the result of the observations captured from the assessments. Then later we can do the planning phase to do the execution, to do the monitoring. And this is, let's say, the small timing cycle. And during the periodic review, we can mitigate some of the risks, and we can ensure that the higher maturity of our process will be achieved. Based on that, we can also focus on the risk management, and if there are some kind of risks, this is just the heat map, the impact and probability. If there are each number means the number of risks in a particular area, and if there are some kind of risks that beyond our risk appetite, we have to mitigate them. And some say that this arrow is called the cruel arrow because the mitigation can cost us quite a lot of time, of money, and of course we have to secure resources, people, just to find and to resolve the problem. The funny fact is that to solve some of the risks coming from the third parties, we have to involve other third parties to solve the problem. This is the process in a nutshell. The first step is to find the list of vendors and consolidate them. Later, to define the list of services relevant for our company. Next, to focus on the association between vendors and the services, to do the filtering, to find the most important vendors and to categorize them. Then later, to prepare the vendor risk profile, to do the self-assessment, to verify what are the gaps, findings, and observations, to maintain the process, and of course to focus on the risk management and how to mitigate them. This is the process in a nutshell. This is how it looks like. Now, case study. And as I said, this will be not standard case study. I would like to take you to a journey, the journey in the past, the journey to the 1940, where the Battle of Britain took place. And I will explain the vendor risk management process based on the Battle of Britain example. Just to be on the same page, Battle of Britain, the main fight was between July and October 1940. There were around 15 nations involved, and of course the biggest nation, they were the Brits, but the second biggest nation were the Poles. And we, of course, our Polish pilots fight in the Battle of Britain. Then, right now, I would like to focus on the vendors from 15 countries. Then we know the lists. Based on the Polish example, we can prepare the service. There are fighter pilots and bomber pilots. Okay, and what we did in the step number 3, vendor, Poland, we have the services, fighter pilots, bomber pilots, we do the association, then so far so good, we are on the point number 3. Then later, we have to verify whether this service is important for us. Just to be on the same page, there were, let's say, thousands of enemy planes each day attacking the airfields, the cities, the villages, and on the other part of the English Channel, there were millions of soldiers waiting for the successful fight over the sky and to start the invasion. Then the service in that moment was very important, and I can say it was the crucial one. Then, vendor risk profile. And the Brits created the vendor risk profile regarding Polish pilots, and they came to the conclusion that they don't know British combat tactics, they don't have experience with modern planes, Hurricanes or Spitfires, and insufficient command of English. And then, of course, try to resolve the problem, starting from the English, then how to pick up the English language. Other pilots were fighting, but what did Polish pilots? They just riding a bicycles.
Despite Kantowski's efforts, the Poles were increasingly frustrated.
Yeah, they were very frustrated because the others were fighting, but they have to ride bicycles with the radio installed, and they try to command in English, okay, turn left, turn right, go up, go down. This was, very, very frustrating for them. The next risk that materialized, I will explain briefly in a moment, they were too eager to fight with the enemy. Right now, I would like to show you a movie which highlights the situation that took place on the 30th of August 1940 during the test mission.
Stop that Polish chopper and steer 2, 3, 0. Repeat, please. I say again, 2, 3, 0. Please. For crying out loud. 2, repeat, please. 3, 0. Repeat, please. Repeat, please. Now just shut up, that lot of you, and follow me. Unless you're blind as well as... Oh, God's truth.
Yes, this was the situation that during the test mission they shot down one of the enemy planes, and after they came back to the base, the British government told, okay, we have to stop you from doing that because it was too risky, you don't know how to behave. But after 4 hours they decided, okay, let them fly. And what happens when they just what was the assessment during the battle? They were extremely good pilots. They have broad battle experience, and their fight tactics was better than expected. They were very successful. Of course, you know the Squadron 303 of the Polish pilots. This was the most effective squadron in the Battle of Britain because the tactics was just to not start to shot to the enemy plane from the 500 yards, but from the less than 100. It was perceived by the Brits that is too risky because the distance was too close to the plane, but it was extremely successful and effective. This is how it looks from the cockpit, and they were extremely efficient. During the first mission, just the day after the test mission, the Squadron 303 shot down 6 enemy planes just in 50 minutes. This was amazing achievement because it was close to the pilots were pushed to the limits that they cannot stand anymore. It was, very difficult situation. But after the success of the Polish squadron, they start to think, maybe this is not the end. Maybe we can fight. And you know what was the rest of the story. This is an example how the dogfight looks from the perspective of the pilot. This is not just fire and forget, like now, the rockets from, let's say, 70 or 80 kilometers, but you have to see your enemy and to try to shoot down from the sky. Then the next points, gap findings management, risk mitigation, not required, let them fly. And I believe that the best summary for all the pilots was given by the Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and I would like you to hear it right now.
Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few.
Yeah, I agree with this statement. Then let's go to the summary. It's good to think about the process like start small and grow, not to focus on the end state too much, because it's not just the big bang, we can do everything in one shot. We have to focus on the small parts. Sorry, something happened. In the small parts, like the growing the plant, let's focus on the create the vendor risk profile, or create the list of vendors. And then if our process will be more and more matured, we can go to the next stage. Do you know the path? I believe, because I've shown you. This is the path. But knowing the path and walking the path is something different. Then I will explain this in another movie. This is pretty much important. There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. Of course, this is your decision whether you would like to focus and just to know the path or just to try to implement it in your organization. And decision is yours. And thank you, everybody, for this session.